Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off, because today I'll be reviewing the Dungeon Crawl Classics First-Time Fan Kit from Goodman Games. Is this a phenomenally priced introduction to DCC, or is Dungeon Crawl Classics an utterly overhyped role-playing game regardless of the price? Well, you're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, I am going to be reviewing the Dungeon Crawl Classics First-Time Fan Kit from Goodman Games. It includes the 504-page softcover core book, as well as a 16-page first-level adventure written by Harley Stroh. It is The Doom of the Savage Kings, as well as a full set of Zaki dice and a judge's screen. You can get all of this from Goodman Games for $35 plus tax and shipping. Let's swing on over to the other camera because, first off, I have the core book here, and I've already done a review of the Dungeon Crawl Classics core book. I loved it. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I thought it's phenomenal. I really think that this is the Appendix N role-playing game for those of you who are looking for that old school vibe with rather modern mechanics, especially if you're pretty well set with your D20s. I think this is a great role-playing game. We're going to peek through this a little bit. We're not going to kind of page through it like I did with my review, but I will put a link to my original review in the show notes. So if you want to get like my full thoughts and get a better look at this book, by all means, check that out. Do want to mention before I take a look at this, this is not a review copy. I actually purchased the Dungeon Crawl Classics First-Time Fan Kit myself. So obviously enough, no one affiliated with Goodman Games has provided either myself or anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang any sort of compensation for me to share my thoughts about this deal. It's important that you know that, especially these days. So this is part of the DCC First-Time Fan Kit. And as I mentioned, it's $35. I do not know how long this is going to be available. I don't know if this is for a short time or not. I know I have seen it go out of stock. As of this recording, it is in stock. So take that with a grain of salt, because I know I did a news piece about the First-Time Fan Kit, and by the time I finished the show, it was out of stock. All right, so let's take a quick peek at the core rule book itself. I want to show you some of the artwork. This is written by Joseph Goodman with some additional design credits here. The print is pretty small, so I'll have a bit of a hard time kind of reading it there from the distance I am at the moment. But do want to give some credit where credit is due. Do want to point out I'm going to stay picture in picture up here in the corner, so I am going to be cutting off part of the pages throughout here as well. All right, so anyway, so jumping on in here, one of the aspects I really liked when I first read Dungeon Crawl Classics is it is a game that assumes you know something about role-playing games. There is no 15-page treatise about what a role-playing game is or anything like that. I love the fact that you're looking at, you've got your standard attributes, right? You've got your strength, agility, stamina, intelligence, personality. You also have luck. And luck plays a huge role in DCC because you can spend luck in order to modify your die rolls. And thieves and halflings have the ability to regenerate luck. In fact, halflings are kind of luck batteries in this game. Something else that's pretty cool is the 0 level funnel. I know some people are not fans of the 0 level funnel. I honestly think it'll be a blast. I'll be the first to point out I have not run any Dungeon Crawl Classics yet. I do have that on the agenda. I am going to be running Sailors on the Starless Sea, which is from, I believe that's also a Harley Stroh adventure. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm going to run it for my best friend, Elliot Miller, his wife, 2 of his daughters, maybe some of their friends. And I am really, really looking forward to it. Some folks may not be huge fans of Dungeon Crawl Classics because it is very swingy, luck-wise. The dice can fall in a variety of different ways. Some folks out there think that this is an overly complex game. It is not. It really isn't. It is essentially, you've got your DCs, right? You've got your challenges and your difficulty challenges, I think they're called. Every game seems to have a different name for the DC, but it's usually a DC. And of course, you've got 5 is super easy, 10 is moderately difficult, 15 is pretty difficult, 20 is, wow, you really got to pull something off to get this done. And of course, you'll have modifiers to that as well. This is a role-playing game where race is class. That is a throwback to basic and expert D&D. Every one of these character classes offers something unique and fun. I got to point out, the fighters actually do not get the short end of the stick or spear, maybe we would say, in Dungeon Crawl Classics. They have mighty deeds, so do dwarves, which allow fighter characters to attempt all kind of crazy martial moves if they want. Now, the higher the level, the easier it is to pull off. But essentially, fighters every single combat round can try to pull off a mighty deed. I think that's great. I think it's awesome. Some things that I know other people aren't too keen on are, really there's not as much customization for your player characters as you would have, say, in 5e or Pathfinder, or even a lot of the OSR retro clones out there. I don't mind so much. I come from the era where the backstory for your characters is created through your adventures, not through spending hours at home rolling up your own character and creating all this backstory that your game master, or in this case with this game, the judge, now has to shoehorn into an adventure. So I don't mind that so much. Combat is relatively easy. There are critical rolls here. There are fumbles here as well. The various different critical roles kind of have a bit of the roll master, or as we always refer to it, arms law, spell law, claw law. Magic, I think, is extremely well done, especially in an Appendix N sort of way, a swords and sorcery story way. It is unpredictable. It is very deadly, and it is corrupting. Now, one of the reasons why people think Dungeon Crawl Classics is relatively complex is because they take a peek and they see all of these different charts. So as an example here, we're taking a look at the spells here. And in essence, each spell takes up about a page is what we're really looking at. We're looking at about, let's try to center this book up a little better here. There we go. So we're looking at each of these spells takes up about a page. And most of it is the kind of results table, because when you roll your D20 plus modifiers, plus you can spell burn in this if you are a magic user, a wizard, not a cleric. Clerics can't spell burn, but wizards in this game can actually burn attribute points to add modifiers to their D20. And you can regain those attributes very slowly. So definitely love that. But that's really what's going on with all of these spells. So people see, oh my gosh, look, this has got to be super complex. It's not. And the thing is, your wizards are not going to know, 30 spells. So all you got to do, and in fact, there's Purple Sorcerer has an excellent app and actually a desktop web page, an HTML-based page for you to utilize all the various different spells. And it's very simple for your magic user characters. They just basically highlight what spells they have, and all that information's right there on their phone or a tablet or even on a laptop or PC. All right, kind of zipping through. See, the vast majority of, well, I shouldn't say vast majority, the majority of this page space is devoted to the magic spells. So then we have a section which is the judge's rules. There's not a ton. There is really not a ton here. One thing during my review I did mention is that I find that there are some areas where some of the rules, they conflict with themselves. They actually contradict themselves. And I know Joe Goodman has said that, well, they're not going to change it because it's essentially, it's up to you. However you want to run this game is how you interpret the rules. That's fine. And of course, that's like any role-playing game. All right. Anyway, just zipping on through here. One part of the book that might feel like it is a bit of a short shift is the monster section. But the cool thing about the monster section is the discussion of that monsters should be weird and different and unusual, and don't be sitting there and be like, oh, well, it's goblins. Oh, it's orcs. If the characters haven't experienced those creatures before, make them weird, make them different. One of the aspects is it's not a minotaur, it's the minotaur. It's not a dragon, it is the dragon. So there are a few different monsters that are already in here, but then there's actually rules for creating unique dragons as well as unique demons as well. But the bestiary aspect of this is not as detailed and all-encompassing, I guess I will say, as in some other fantasy role-playing games. But I got to be honest, I mean, if you think about it, many of your various different monsters are just reskinned. I mean, if you think about it, there are a lot of monsters, if you're looking at the popular fantasy role-playing games out there, that are very, very similar. They may have one or possibly two unique features about them that differentiate them from other monsters that are very, very similar. You can easily duplicate that with DCC. Personally, I think you can make your monsters really shine. Goblins, kobolds, geez, that's nothing. Those are easy. Yeah, maybe in other rules, but I could see having a lot of fun with those, especially making them into creatures that you've never seen before. So we've got some inspirational reading. So there is a duplication of Appendix N, which comes from the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide from way back in the day. So very, very cool. We have some OSR resources. We get some ads at the back, which I thought were kind of cool. We've got various. Now, I don't know if, some of these are no longer around. Like Crawl Magazine, I think, is no longer being published. But you also get a couple of adventures. So you get a 0-level funnel, the portal under the stars, and Yidgril's Maze, which is actually a level 2 adventure. So the portal under the stars can be a 0-level funnel, or if you don't want to do a funnel, you can make it a first level adventure as well. So I thought it was very cool. We got 2 pretty substantial adventures in here. And then we've got a bunch of other material back here, different conventions, different companies who do third-party DCC products as well. So 504 pages. I got to be honest, I don't know how well this softcover will hold up at the table. It seems like it should be all right. I mean, I can open it up. It lies pretty well. But then again, it is a soft cover book. So this will normally carry an MSRP of $24.99. Remember, this first-time fan kit clocks in at $35 plus tax and shipping. So this is the adventure that comes with it as well. It is a rather early Dungeon Crawl Classics adventure. Dungeon Crawl Classics had been around for quite some time, publishing D&D 3.5 and 4 adventures. And then I think Dungeon Crawl Classics, at least the beta rules, were out around 2012. And this is one of the first adventures. This is a level 1 adventure. It is relatively short. It is 16 pages. It usually carries an MSRP of $9.95. It's a pretty good adventure. DCC is a very lethal role-playing game. I equate it to how people think Call of Cthulhu adventures must be with the body counts. My CSC adventures don't get that. I've never seen a TPK as I ran Call of Cthulhu, but TPKs can easily take place in Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's a pretty interesting adventure. It should take you probably maybe 2 sessions to complete. If you run longer sessions like I do, I tend to run 6-hour sessions or more. Usually my role-playing game sessions are about 8 hours. I could easily see completing this in one of my sessions. If you tend to play, 3-4 hours, you're probably looking at maybe 2 sessions for this. Pretty good adventure. Not a fantastic adventure. I don't think it's one of Harley Stroh's best adventures. I have been looking at some of the PDFs for some of the other adventures for DCC, but still pretty good adventure. I could see having some fun with my players with this. Once again, as I mentioned, I think it's $9.95. Oh, $9.99 is the usual MSRP. So one of the big selling points for the first-time fan kit is the Zaki dice. So you get a tube of 14 Zaki dice. So you're going to have your 30-sider. You've got your 24-sider. You've got your 20-sider. This is the 16-sider. This, I think, looks like that's the 14-sider. The 12. We've got the 10. We've got the percentile here. We have I think this is a 5-sider. Yeah, that's the 5-sider there. This is the 4-sider, which I think is kind of interesting. This 4-sided die, the number is at the top. Usually 4-sided dice would have, the numbers down here. You got to look at the bottom, or you look at the top to see which it is. Right here, it's right on top of that. So hadn't seen that design before, so I thought that was pretty cool. This is the 7-sided die. This is the 8-sided die, 6-sided die, and a 3-sided die. This normally carries an MSRP of $29, and is it $99? Yes, 99 cents right there. So right now we're looking at $65 MSRP for the first-time fan kit. Do want to mention, when I first ordered this, I got a green three-sided die. I reached out to Goodman Games, and they very happily sent me the correct color so that my set is complete. Do want to mention, like many role-playing game sets, only one six-sided die. I got to be honest, I would have liked to have seen two more six-sided dice, because rolling up your attributes, right? You've got your three six-siders, but very nice dice set. Once again, normally carries an MSRP of $29.99. Finally, we have the cardstock judges screen, and the cardstock is nice and thick. So this cardstock, this reminds me of the old AD&D Game Master screen. It is nice and thick. It'll hold up very nicely. I am a little disappointed at what's on the screen. So this section here, that's fine. Activities, attack roll modifiers, 2-weapon attacks, laying on hands for clerics, fumbles. Once again, as I mentioned before, you've got critical hits, you've got fumbles, weapons, ammunition, armor, morale, difficulty levels. Cool. Good deal. But then we get into some charts here. We've got the level 0 and all wizards critical hit table, which that'll come in useful when you're doing a 0 level funnel and whenever wizards are in combat. After that, that section's kind of useless. And then we also have the critical hit table for monsters, which you don't tend to use with like humanoid creatures. And the critical hit monsters is kind of vanilla, kind of generic. I would have liked to have seen maybe to have the warrior and dwarf critical hit tables instead of the 0 level and all wizards. Like I said, a lot of this is useful, but I could have seen a little different layout with this. All in all, though, still a pretty nice judges screen that will hold up to a lot of gameplay. It'll hold up really nicely at the table. This normally carries an MSRP of $19.99. So essentially, we're looking at about $85 worth of Dungeon Crawl Classics dice, judges screen, adventure, and core book for $35. So let me swing on over to the other camera. I will provide my final thoughts and give this first-time fan kit a review score. All right, so if you follow the Gaming Gang, and obviously from what I've talked about in this review as well, you know I really do like Dungeon Crawl Classics. I think it's really, really well done. It speaks to me. Now, I know from my review of the core book, somebody had commented that, Dungeon Crawl Classics is just so overhyped and the game stinks and yada, yada, yada. Well, of course, everybody's entitled to their opinion, obviously enough. But please, Dungeon Crawl Classics is overhyped? And what are you trying to tell me? 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons and 2nd edition Pathfinder aren't? I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. I don't see hardly any coverage of Dungeon Crawl Classics. You can't swing a dead cat, which hopefully you wouldn't want to swing a dead cat, without hitting some coverage of, especially 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, everywhere you look. So I don't buy into it's overhyped. I think for what it sets out to do, I think it does it very well. As long as you understand the luck of the dice is going to have a lot to do with what goes on at the table. And personally, I like that. I dig that. I have absolutely no problems with swings in luck. I'm all right with that. I think you get tons and tons of gaming material here for $35. Think about it. For less than the cost of one core book for Dungeons and Dragons or the core book for, let's say, second edition Pathfinder, you're getting the full core book, you're getting an adventure, you're getting a full set of Zaki dice, which I know that is a big deal with a lot of people. A lot of times, a lot of people don't want to try out Dungeon Crawl Classics because they're like, I got to buy all these new dice. Not necessarily true. You can certainly use the Purple Sorcerer app to roll any of those dice. And you can actually use your regular gaming dice as well. But you're getting a sweet deal. For less than one core book, you're getting loads and loads of gaming to utilize at your table. I think it's a fantastic deal. That's why I jumped at the chance to pick it up for $35 plus tax and shipping. So all in all, I live in the Chicagoland area. It was $42 and change with the tax and shipping. So pretty sweet deal. All right. So I give the Dungeon Crawl Classics First-Time Fan Kit a 10 out of 10. I really think it is that good. If you have any interest whatsoever, run, do not walk to pick up this. I think it is a limited time. I don't think this is something that's going to be around all the time. Definitely check it out at goodman/games.com. All right, that's it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. If you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube, as I bring you not only the latest in tabletop gaming news, but first looks at board games, role-playing games, miniatures, rules, and more. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more there as well. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for taking some time out to watch this video. And as I wrap up all my videos during this maybe not never-ending pandemic, I still certainly hope every one of you out there is being smart and staying safe. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, if you haven't subscribed to the Gaming Gang channel yet, click right here. If you'd like to see the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, click right up there. And if you want to trust YouTube's algorithm to give you something to watch, click right there. Once again, thanks so much for watching, and everybody please wear a mask.